Let's look at how dog culture affects our human children. In the USA, we have at least 90 million dogs that we know of. So these dogs will definitely have an effect on our kids because they're in our houses. They don't live out in the yard anymore. Let's look at how this relates to capitalism, communism, Marxism, and socialism. Is dog culture anti capitalist and pro socialist and pro communist? I would say yes. So let's look at some of the information that I've collected to prove this thesis. First off, in capitalism, it's about promoting economic growth. One of the key things about this is providing individuals with the freedom to pursue their own economic interests and accumulate wealth. When you're a young human born into a dog loving family, your freedom to pursue your own interests, economic wealth or whatever, are suppressed. They have to be because you have to shape your life around whatever amount of dogs that your parents own, which means a lot of not having enough money for stuff, not having enough space for stuff, but definitely having enough stuff for your dogs. That's how we do it in America right now. We put dogs before kids, we put dogs before ourselves. Even a family that has a large amount of extra finances, those families are still a culprit in this because they're on Facebook and other social media promoting dog ownership to poor people that can't afford to feed their kids, yet they will accumulate more and more dogs. So, as we know, children born into families with dogs, when they become adults, they get dogs. And as it says right here, the bond with animals. So, we're supposed to bond with fellow humans, not with animals. And that kind of sucks because bonding with animals just means that you're going to be more animalistic. You're going to be less intelligent. We're supposed to bond with our fellow humans. We can observe animals and respect animals out in nature, bird conservatories and stuff like that. We don't need to fill our houses with a dog, a fanged predator, a fanged predator that needs pet insurance, food, constant care and attention and money that should be for our fellow humans. And so this is what we're doing to our little kids. We're not allowing them that right here where it says the freedom to pursue their own economic interest. When a kid is born into a dog owning household, some of that freedom is just thrown in the garbage for the sake of a dog. And dog ownership itself is very expensive. So look at some of these numbers right here. So they say that you can spend up to 55,132 per year, but that's just talking about like toys and food. Dog owners have a lot more expenses than that. There's the pet insurance that doesn't get payouts. There's the thousands and thousands of lawsuits when dogs cause problems, like attacks on neighbors' dogs or other people. Um, so, kind of like it mentions here, there's the training, grooming. You got to go on Amazon and buy all these deodorants and air filters, and also veterinary care. Many people will go seriously in debt for veterinary care. So this number 55,132 right here, that's just like the bare minimum. So this is what you're doing to your little kid. Instead of offering them an investment of a car or a mountain bike carrier or a tool set or a book a book about fixing houses or finances. Instead, you're giving them this dog. And so that's anti capitalist. Your child is supposed to grow up and be able to make their own decisions. But when you force dog ownership on them, you're forcing this like absolute bare minimum expense on them, which goes right along with less humans in their life, less money in their life, less time. Yeah, let's look at our next one. So, when it comes to return on investment, I wanted to show you guys this little summary. So, they say that dogs provide see this blue highlight right here, and a return on investment. But they say that's from emotional benefits. Again, emotional benefits, the best ones you can get are from your fellow humans. Scientifically proven, pretty much common sense. The best emotional benefits you can get are from your fellow humans. They say here that additionally, pet ownership can inspire better financial habits. However, if you look into the articles that talk about that, the financial habits that they say are quote unquote better, they're encouraging people to spend less money on their own things, their own endeavors, and just spend that money on their dogs. They will talk about things like, don't go on a vacation, use that money to pay off your vet bill. So I just want to show you guys this little summary because this is what the mainstream dog culture will tell you is that, pets provide this learning experience for finances. Well, what learning experience is that? It's the learning experience of being broke and poor and being what they call a pet ownership that can inspire better financial habits. And those habits tell you to put aside your own goals and endeavors to pay more money into dogs. So while on the surface it looks great, really what they're doing is they're telling you to suppress your own ability to be a strong and innovative profit pursuing capitalist. So yeah, dog culture is very anti-capitalist. Now we're looking at another summary from thehumanworld.org and the Progressive. Many dog owners face financial challenges. 20 million pets live in households that are experiencing poverty, and 43% of pet owners have struggled to afford their pets' needs. That is what you're setting your children up for. You're setting them up to be liable for something that doesn't even help them. A dog will never get a job, it will never pay taxes, but it will definitely keep you poor. It will definitely keep you in less connection with your fellow humans. And this stuff is so obvious, you guys. Like, look at some of these articles that are available for people to understand. And when you're a child born into a pet owning family, do your parents read any of these articles to you and offer you a better investment than being a long-term dog worshiper? No, they don't. And that's kind of sad. So, in capitalism, it encourages investment by allowing private individuals and businesses to own capital goods and make decisions based on profit motives. With dog ownership, you're basing your decisions on emotional motives. I gotta own a dog. I gotta be a better person. I gotta show my dad that I'm a dog lover. I gotta show everybody on Facebook that I'm a good doggy person. It's not about growing your wealth so you can share it. It's about dumping your wealth and being poor so that you can service a dog. And so yes, dog culture is very anti-capitalist. And this little summary right here, this is what we're doing to our kids. And there is no competition and innovation in dog culture. I mean, well, there is competition. It's like who can be more broke. Look at me. I sold my truck and my care credit card is completely maxed out for my dogs. And we're gonna put our vacation on hold so we can buy cancer treatment for our 12-year-old pit bull. Yeah, that's sad, and that's what you're piling on top of your children with dog culture. So another thing that you're dumping on your kids by putting them into a dog household is arguments. Yep. So study after study has looked at this thing about 2,000 disputes over a dog's lifetime. So they think that you have about 2,000 disputes per dog per the life of a dog. And some of the issues are disagreements about care responsibilities, training methods, and stuff like that. So, have you guys ever experienced that kind of stuff? I've seen this a ton. There was a girl I dated. She had two daughters. They both wanted wiener dogs, those little wiener puppies. And so they got some. They got two of them. And then they constantly argued about whose turn it was to let him in, to let him out, whose turn it was to pick up all the poop. They were always arguing about it. There was always some type of dispute, and their mom, the girl I was dating, had to constantly intervene and force them to go take care of the dogs. And yet they were constantly fighting amongst each other about whose turn it was to pick up all the dog shit. I mean, these arguments happen all the time. And so, little kids that are born into families where they're constantly arguing about dogs, that's stress for them. You know, take this number right here, 2,000 disputes, times it by 90 million dogs in America, you're going to get quite a huge number. And that's the number of stressful arguments that we're dumping onto our nation, onto our kids, onto our future taxpayers and future innovators. They got to sit there and deal with these nasty dogs and the disputes that they cause. Yeah. And if you want to read about this, I'm not the only one to notice it. There's article after article about this stuff. Like this one, man's worst friend. The average dog causes 2,000 family arguments. Oh, yeah. It's not good. Okay, so we're kind of seeing that dog culture is anti capitalist. What is the antithesis to capitalism? Well, that's communism. So let's see if communism looks like dog culture. Well, in communism, they aim to instill loyalty to the state in children through education and socialization. That's what we do with these kids. They're born into dog worshipping families and they don't know any different. They have no idea that if they didn't have a dog, that they could sit there and eat their meal without worrying about the dog jumping up. They could play with their Legos, they could open a book, they could play with their toys out on the coffee table and be creative and inventive without worrying about mom and dad's dog eating their Legos or chewing up on their book. You know, they could have a bowl of carrot slices or whatever and not worry about the dog jumping up in their face. But nowadays, parents tell their kids to respect the dog, put your stuff away, go away, close your bedroom door, be quiet, respect the dog, all that stuff from the second they're born. Even when they're inside the womb of their mom is baby talking a dog. Yep. And so, just like with dog culture, we're trying to instill loyalty. Communism, dog culture, both of them are trying to instill loyalty into children. This moral development part right here. So many people talk about we got to get the kids to respect the dog, respect the dog's boundaries, give more to the dog. Yeah, a dog is a state funded thing. A dog is a social responsibility. So many state programs go toward dog ownership. So many laws are in place for dogs. So many taxpayer dollars go towards taking care of dogs, responding to police calls for dogs. Your property taxes pay for the police. The police, more and more and more, have to be dispatched for dog problems. Yeah. So, check this out. Arguing can negatively impact financial decision making. So, like with the constant arguments of having a dog in your house, that's going to screw with your financial decision making. So, that's anti capitalist. As a little kid, you should be able to have the best information to make the best financial decision making. But if you're full of a house full of dogs, full of adults that worship dogs, and they're arguing over dogs, you're going to be stressed out. So, you're going to make irrational choices because you're trying to get rid of the stress of listening to your jackass dog worshiping parents argue over dogs like they always do. Anxiety is heightened, emotions are heightened, and you're going to struggle to make logical financial decisions, or really any decision, like relationship decisions. Another thing that is going to be affecting your children with the dog culture of the dog worship, 27,000 of the 4.5 million people who are bitten by dogs each year require reconstructive surgery for their injuries. Many of these surgeries focus on facial reconstruction, particularly among children. So if you're a child and you're worried about facial infections, going back into the hospital, wrapping your face back up with more bandages, going to school, looking terrible and ugly because your face is all torn up, how are you going to make independent financial decisions to support your life, to make profit once you get older? You can't. So again, dog culture is anti-capitalist. You can't be a profit-earning, innovative, capitalist young adult when a good portion of your time is dealing with your poor face that your jackass dog worshiping parents allowed a pit bull, or your neighbor allowed a pit bull, or a husky, or a cane corso to rip your freaking face off. How can you sit there and make independent financial decisions? You can't. So, yes, dog culture is anti capitalist because it screws all these kids over. Look, particularly among children, 27,000 facial reconstructive surgeries for kids. How can those kids grow up and think about earning their own money, collecting their own wealth, when they're spending more and more and more time worrying about the scar tissue and pus and nasty stuff that's going on with their face, having to go to the hospital 3 or 4 times a week to get their face fixed because a dog bit them? Yeah, they can't. They can't do it. Something else this dog culture does to the children is competition for attention with the family pets. The pets feel jealous, the kids feel jealous. Many parents go out of their way to give more attention to the dog. It's like our modern culture. Oh, dogs are better. Oh, respect of the dog. Blah, 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 blah. Well, what do you think that's doing to these kids? Here's what it's doing right here. Giving them emotional deprivation, a sense of inadequacy. It affects their self-esteem and their social relationships later in life. So with capitalism, we're supposed to give our kids freedom, knowledge, the ability to have private property, the ability to make awesome financial decisions. But we're raising them in a house full of dogs, making them compete for attention with dogs, which, look at all the stuff that it does to them. It's not good for them. So how can they make proper financial decisions when they've been emotionally compromised by their dog worshiping parents? How can they do it? I don't think they can. I think it's making it very, very hard for them. This behavior, it says, this behavior stems from a deep emotional need and can result in long-term challenges forming healthy connections with others. Yeah, how can they connect with others when they've grown up constantly competing for attention with their parents' dogs. And then you're going to expect them to be good at earning a profit, good at running a business. Yeah, you're just making it harder for them. You're making it harder for them to be a successful person in a capitalist economy. So dog culture is anti-capitalist. Let's look at one last example about dog culture. So some families, blue highlight here, some families choose not to have friends over due to the presence of dogs. I've read about this a lot. Like there'll be a birthday party and they'll bring some dogs over and the dogs will cause a ruckus. They'll bite a couple kids. The people that brought dogs caused problems, or maybe the family had dogs already and the kids that were invited, one of them got bit. So they'll just quit inviting people over. They won't let the kids have friends over because there's a dog problem, you know? And so, like in communism, this is breaking down the family element, breaking down the traditional family. And here's a summary about that. Communism discouraged home gatherings as a part of its broader control over social life, promoting collective activities. Collective activities in the dog culture means owning a bunch of freaking dogs over individual or family gatherings. Yeah, you can open up like a sniff spot and have a shit ton of dogs in your backyard shitting everywhere, but having a bunch of friends over, well, the dog is food reactive. The dog doesn't like the 4th of July fireworks. So and so gave the dog too many hot dogs, so we're not going to have people over. People are constantly not doing gatherings at their house because of dogs or dog problems. And it's the same thing with communism. They discouraged home gatherings. They wanted you to do communist type stuff. And with dog culture, you're going to do communist type stuff, which is sit there and worship your dogs and put your fellow humans or your children as a low priority. Yeah, so that has been a look at some of the things we do to our kids in dog culture. And these are the same things that we did to our kids in communism, socialism, and Marxism. See you guys later.